the Excel the beginning. Today is Excel the next level. And before I go any further, I just want to say that if you didn't see Excel in the beginning, it is on our YouTube station, Noon Knowledge, and to refer back to the day that I don't quite understand what Nancy's talking about. But Nancy's excellent time, and so she has agreed to come back and give us some more advanced information about Excel, and we are thrilled to have her. So without further ado, Nancy Fireball. And if you will, please turn your cell phones off.
Thank you. Get to it in time before it shut down. I'm going to borrow this right here. Welcome. The flyer that we drafted, what do I do? In the back. Is this good? All right, the flyer that we drafted said what we're going to do is create and enhance some simple graphs to better display your data. We're going to talk about some more advanced functions. Last time we did the very simple sum, average, count, okay? There's a little bit more advanced version of that. And then we're also going to use some text functions to manipulate some data. And again, this is just to give you an idea of some different things that you can do with Excel. Excel is immense. You know, I don't care what you do, there's still things out there that you know, I'm still learning about. So, everybody good with this? Can you see okay? All right, this is just, again, all the numbers have been done. There's, you know, the purpose of this is not to do any calculations. What we're going to take a look at is doing some graphs, some charts with this particular set of information. And this particular set of information has some people named over in the A column. And it has the quarters designated across in row 4. And then there's the total sales at the end of the rows. And then there's total at the bottom of the columns. So again, some of this we're going to use, some of it we may not. You don't, again, we're going to use parts of it for one type of graph. We're going to use parts of it for another type of graph. Okay, so again, it just depends. When you're when you're showing graphs or showing charts, what do you want to present? That's the question. And again, what happens is charts have a better way of presenting. You can see a trend better. You can start seeing, you know, the way things group a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to start out. Now, when we get ready to do a chart, I'm going to use the Insert tab. And again, I'll show you where we find what we need. All right, the first rule of doing a chart is you select your data first. You select not only the data, but you go ahead and select your headings. Okay? So even though A4 is blank, I'm going to start selecting in location A4. All right, I'm going to select across, and I'm going to select down. All right, so right now I've selected the 4 quarters of information, and I've selected the names of the people. Everybody good with that? So again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you select your information first. You also, again, want to select the headings that you want incorporated. All right, I mentioned the Insert tab. I'm going to click on the Insert tab. And then over here, and again, a lot of times this ribbon bar under the Insert, it displays as much as it can. Sometimes the charts will be grouped in a little square. You just kind of look, you need to look for what you want to use. All right, what I want to do this time is I want to show how individually these sets of data or these individual pieces of data compare. So I'm going to use a column chart. All right, a column chart is going to let you show the individual relationships. So a column chart is more centered or more oriented toward a relationship. And very simply up here, I'm going to click under column. I don't know how well, I hope you can see that. Now, there's a 2D column, there's a 3D. 2D, again, is very flat. 3D gives you some depth, okay? So, again, you're going to get the same size of the columns and all that, but, again, under a 2D and a 3D, you're just going to get different. You can also do a cylinder, you can do a cone. So, if you really want to get fancy or you really want to get into doing some things a little bit differently, you can choose different styles. I'm going to go with a 3D column. It just gives you some depth, okay? And it's the 3D cluster. Now, these are stacked, okay? So you have to have a reason Why would you want to stack the data? And again, this data doesn't lend itself to that, but you may have data that does, okay? All right, so this is a 3D clustered column. And voila, okay? So very quickly, Excel looks at the data, it sets up the scale, it gives you the height of each column as it relates to, and in this particular case, these are the 4 quarters. Okay, and then notice that again, it automatically gives you what's called a legend. The color of the name relates to the color of the column. Okay. All right, now you can, and again, it goes back to what do you want to hand out to people? What do you want to present? Having a chart on the worksheet itself bugs me. Okay, so I do something to take it off and put it on its own page. But be aware that you can very easily move this around, okay, so that it's beneath it. All right, so again, you can very easily do that if that's what you choose to do, okay. Also, notice again what happens up here is a whole set of tabs up here that relate just to charts now. Keep in mind that all of Office is intuitive, okay, or it's only going to show you what you need to see at that time. If I click off the chart, those tools go away because I don't need them now. My chart's not active, so why clutter up the ribbon bar? So what I have is, again, if I click on the chart, then I very quickly get my chart tools back. I've got design, I've got layout, and I've got format. We'll take a look at those real quickly in just a minute. All right, now I mentioned I can do something though that makes this look a little bit, or not look a little bit better, that again puts it on its own page. Under the Design tab at the far right, do you see that icon or that button that says Move Chart? Okay, if you click Move Chart, right now it's in the object. We're not only moving it to a new sheet, but we also have the option of giving it a name. Okay, so again, it helps to name it. I'm going to call it column just so that I remember. So it's a column chart. Click OK. All right, and then now what I have is I have my column chart down here, okay, and my data is still in this tab called Sales by Quarter. Okay. If you save it, it saves that tab with it, so it saves the charts. So the charts get saved. If I go to my Layout tab, okay, again, depending on what you want to add or not add, under the chart title, okay, right now it's set to none, all right, but let's assume that, again, what we want to do is we're going to do it above the chart, and this is going to be I'm just going to call it quarter data. You can, obviously, it's whatever you want to type in there. Quarter data for 2015. I mean, you can type as much or as little as you want. Okay, once you tell it you're going to insert the chart title, it's just like a text box. Okay, so you can do what you want there. All right, now keep in mind, okay, I'm only at 78%, so I'll increase that just a little bit to let you see. And again, what this is going to do is it's going to give you the height. It's set up the scale. It's going to give you the height of the column, okay, for each person within the quarter. So again, what you can see is poor Lisa doesn't do too well. All right, but again, what you can see is you can see the relative comparison. Okay. Now there's a neat little feature that I think is great. And under the Design tab, there's a button up here at the top. It says Switch Row and Column. So what that's going to do is it's going to flip this chart. And it's really kind of a neat presentation, or a neat way, depending on what you want to do. It actually flips the data. So if you want to see how did a person do across all 4 quarters, okay, then all we did is we just flipped the X and Y relationship. So again, it's just another neat way to present your data. It's up to you on what you're trying to show. Are you showing how the people did within the quarter, or do you want to see how each person performed for all 4 quarters? And again, it's just same data, just a different view. And you get that from by switching the row and column. Okay. All right, again, this is just to give you a quick look at what you can do. You'll notice up here this says chart layouts. You know, you can go in and pick a different layout. You can move the legend to the bottom. And again, there's a whole series here of layouts. So you can go back, or you can go into, you know, whatever you want that works. Okay. And once you start playing around with those, then you lose. You know, it puts its own layout there, so we just lost our chart title. Okay. But again, under the layouts, you can decide what you want. If you want to do varying shades of the same color as opposed to the multicolor, that's all under the styles. And again, that's very easy to do. Okay. Again, all it takes is a click. All right, before we do another chart, any questions on this one in particular? Again, this is sales data. You kind of have to look at it the way your data is. What do you want to show? What's going to make sense to you? But again, a column data is showing relationship from one set of values to another.
We changed the data.
Yeah, good question. Good question. Let's help Lisa out, okay? Okay, let's go up for poor old Lisa here, and we're going to make her like 26,000. Okay, and again, okay, and you immediately see the effect. Yes, there, if you ever use the old Excel, if you did, you had to refresh. Y'all remember? Any of you remember that? Yeah, that was tricky. But again, no, this is as soon as you hit the enter key. Let me go back real quick, because if you don't know, what's this telling you? Just curious. It came up on its own. Column's not wide enough. So if you get pound sign, pound sign, pound sign, that's not an error message. It's just a flag that says your data's too large. I can't display it. So all you need to do is widen the column. All right, let's look at how each person did as a part of the whole. And if you're going to do that type of chart, then what you want to look at is called a pie chart. Okay, so a pie chart, and just to go back, everything I did at the beginning, I selected the data contiguously, meaning it was all together. Okay. In this particular case, I'm going to need the names, and then I want to show what their effect was on all the total sales. So I'm going to need a piece of data on one edge, and then I'm going to need data over on the other side. Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right, so I'm going to select from A4 down through A8. Now I can't go across and select, or I get Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. All right, but what I want is the total sales over to the right. So to get an area that is not contiguous, you have to hold down the control key. So if I hold down the control key and I select from F4 down through F8, those are the 2 areas selected. Okay? So to select non-contiguous data, you have to use the control key. And though I think I was doing this not too long ago, and they said, can you do more than one? Yeah. If you hold the control key down, if for some reason I wanted Q2, I could select Q2. Okay? So yes. As long as you're holding the control, you can keep selecting. All right, everybody good with that? Just a little piece of information. All right, under insert again, we're going to go to the pie charts. All right, and the same thing. There's a 2D version, there's a 3D version. You know, you can choose, or you can pick what you like. You're going to find out that we can explode the pie. Again, you can pull the little pieces out, but we'll just go ahead and do a regular 3D for right now. Okay, and again, this picked up total sales as the title, and again, that's because, again, total sales included as part of that heading. Okay, so this time your chart gets the title. If you don't like it, you can change it very easily. All right, and again, what we get is the color coding for the legend, and again, I'm going to move it to a new sheet. And again, depending on what you want to do, you can change the colors, you can change the layouts. When I look at the layout tab, usually you come up by default under the design tab. If I look at the layout tab, one of the neat things that you can do, the pie chart itself is made just like you see it. Under the data labels, if I click the down arrow, all right, I can go ahead and put some data label options on it. All right, and I can decide if I want to show up here. You know, you can get too much because what happens is then it becomes, you can't read it hardly. But do you want the value? Do you want the percentage? Do you actually want the name on it? So again, I'll move this over a little bit. You can't hardly see it. Again, that just gives you the series name. The category name gives you the individual person. So again, it depends on how much you want to do. Generally for pie charts, percentages, that's a good thing to show because that's kind of what you're looking at. What percent of the whole did someone do? Okay. So I'm going to choose the percentage, and I'm going to click close. All right, now, one thing to note is you can, once you have this data on the pie chart, you can treat it just like text. So if I were doing this, I would probably go in and make this white or make it some light color. You may want to expand it. But once those data labels are there, you can treat it just like text. You can increase the font size, you can change the color. And again, a white kind of shows up on these colors more so than like the black text does. But once the labels are there, then you can go in and change pretty much what you want. All right, again, under the layout, under the legend, right now it shows to the right. This is true for any legends or the legends that shows up. You can put them at the top, you can put them at the left, you can put them at the bottom. So it really depends on where on your particular graph do you want this. We can show it at the bottom. Again, it's just kind of up to you on where you want some of this information to be shown. The default position is usually to the right. Okay, so again, pie chart shows you the relationship to the total. It doesn't show you the individual. Okay, and again, generally the way that you're going to see it presented most of the time is the percentage. You know, what percent does one person contribute, or the product grouping. You know, what do certain products account for? So again, that's just an easy way to do the pie chart. All right, questions? Y'all make use of charts now. You may use charts. May use charts later. Okay. Any questions though? If you look at the data, I mean, there's other charts we can do. But again, I don't want to go too much into detail. Any other questions or comments?
I do have a question. Once you've generated your chart, can you then copy and paste that into another document, like a PowerPoint or a Word document?
Yeah, just
Highlight it and
just copy it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can even, if you really want to get involved, you can even set up a link.
Oh.
So if it's in here, it's in your PowerPoint slide, you set up a link, you change that chart, you'll change your PowerPoint slide. So again, keep in mind if you copy it, you're just getting a snapshot.
Okay.
Okay? So if you, again, it depends on what you're doing, but if you're really interested that it be updated, then establish a link, and when you establish the link,
And then you update the data.
you update the data, the next time you open the PowerPoint, it opens up or gets the new data. So you do that by establishing the link. I mentioned that you could explode the pie. What you do to get just one wedge, you click on it twice, and if you notice there's only 3 dots now around the red wedge, okay? So I can click and hold on that particular wedge and pull it out. So if you want to pull a certain piece of the pie out, again, it's easy to do that. The other thing too is under the format, if you don't like, I think this is true. If you don't like the color that's there, okay, you can change it again to some other color. And then you do that just by, under the shape field. Okay, if you wanted to go with more of a lighter color, and again, it just depends. But if you don't like the colors, you can easily change those. Okay, questions, comments? We're good? Everybody good? Okay. All right, I want to just really quickly show you how you do an if statement in Excel. Okay. The purpose of an if statement is to place a value in your Excel spreadsheet based on whether or not some condition has either been met or not met. And it's up to you on how you do it. Okay. All right, so we're going to make this easy. Okay. All right. Just playing around the other day, I was doing this. I was kind of. All right. If you look at location A2, you're going to get a bonus if you've been with this company 10 years or more. Is everybody okay on what we're setting up here? Okay. All right. So what you're going to use is an if statement. Now, this is a very simplified form of the if statement. If statements can do calculations for you. They can do tests, whatever you want them to do. But this is a real simple form. Okay. All right. So I think we talked just a little bit about inserting the function at fx. Did we talk a little bit about that last time? That's where you're going to get your functions. Okay. So in the location where I first want to start, I'm going to place my cursor, my cell in location F5, and I'm going to click the FX button. That's going to bring up the opportunity to use all of your particular functions. And if we didn't talk about it, there are unbelievable numbers of functions that are out there. Financial, math, statistics, lookups, text, logical, information. Again, it goes, the number of functions available is just amazing. Okay. I'm going to go to, all right, I'm going to go to logical, and I'm going to click on if. Now, the problem with making the screen larger, it doesn't make these screens larger. Right, but when you look at what an if statement is going to do, there's three parts to any if statement. The first part of the if statement is what are you testing? The next part is what do you want to have happen if it's true? And then the next part is what do you want to have happen if it's false? So when you click on any function, it's going to give you the syntax that it expects. And what it expects is the word if, and then enclosed in parentheses will be what are you testing? It's separated with a comma. What do you want to do if it's true? Separated with a comma. What do you want to do if it's false? Okay, everybody good on that? All right. Now, if we use this and I click OK, it's going to walk over. It's going to take you over to where you can just basically kind of fill in the parts that you want. All right, the logical test is going to be, and you want to start testing your categories, okay? But if you were doing this in your head, what you would probably do would be look at that first one, and you would say, is 12.22 greater than 10? And you say yes, true. You come down to the next one, and you say, is 9.18 greater than 10? And the answer is no, right? Okay. So you've got to take what you think and what you can think through, and you've got to translate that so Excel has the right pieces. So under the logical test, you want to start with that first location that you're going to test. And that first location is going to be E5. And the test is it greater than, you'll have to use the, there's no way to do this except just type it in, okay? But the test that you're doing in your head or on paper or wherever, is that value greater than 10? All right? Everybody good? All right, then you're going to move down to, what do you want to do if the value is true? What do you want to show up to be printed on the spreadsheet? The word yes, okay? All right, and again, that's a text, so I'm going to put it in quotation marks. I'm going to tab down, and then what value do you want to put in there if it's not greater than 10? No. All right, so I'm going to, again, quotation marks, no, close quotation marks. All right, and I'm going to click OK. And immediately I get yes for the first one. Everybody agree with that? All right. If we didn't talk about copying, which I think we did, very simply because every one of these values will be tested the same way, very simply we can just copy, fill that down all the way. So I'm going to, you need a black plus sign on that lower right corner, and when you click your black plus sign, you're going to click, hold, and drag, okay, and then there's your values. We'll make it look just a little bit better here. Okay, and you can do it in your head, you can glance at this very quickly. But if you look at the formula for what you did, the formula bar says equal if, remember everything you do that's a formula or a function has to start with an equal. Excel puts it in there for you. If, left parenthesis, is E5 greater than 10, there's a comma. If you're doing text, it has to be in quotation marks. Your answer is yes, comma. If it's not true, then the answer is no. And again, if you're presenting text, it has to be in quotation marks. All right, everybody good with that? Okay, again, that's a very simple if statement. Okay, you can make if statements a lot more complex. Just so you know, you can nest if statements. You can say, if this happens, then I want you to execute another if statement. Okay, so you can nest if statements up to 5 levels. So I just wanted you to be aware of the if structure. Okay. We briefly looked at this last time, and I believe that's a true statement. Then I think we touched on subtotals. If you were in the class the last time, we touched on subtotals. Okay. All right. We use this, and again, I'm using a subset of it just so that it gets on the screen and it's easy to read. I want to know how much was sold for the different types. And again, I'm just going to review this just so that you know one way you can do it, and then there's another way that we're going to approach it. If you were here last time and we talked about subtotals, the first thing you have to do to make subtotals work correctly is what? If you use them, what do you have to do first? You have to sort by the way you want to see your data grouped. All right? So what you have to do is you have to sort it. If I just set up a subtotal right now, it would just change every time it saw a difference. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to sort this by the types. And again, I'm doing this for a reason. So I'm going to go to my data tab. I'm going to go to sort under the data tab. Now notice again over here, it's very important my data has headers, that's checked. If not, then again, you're kind of floundering around for what's the column. So if you have headers, if you have names, make sure you use them. And I want to sort by the type. And again, as soon as I choose this drop-down arrow, type is something that I'm going to choose. It's going to sort on the values. It's going to sort A to Z, which means low fat. It's going to sort out, and then traditional. If you want to reverse, you just tell it it's Z to A. All right, so I'm going to click OK. All right, so now what I'm going to do, again, with a subtotal, since all of low fat is grouped and all of traditional is grouped, now I can go in and get subtotals. But now keep in mind, I had to sort this a different way. I lost my date, okay? I lost my sort order by date, all right? Can't have it both ways. I got to have it one way or the other. So I'm going to go in, and again, this is kind of a review of what we did, but just to say I'm going to do a subtotal. At each change in, and again, I'm going to use my drop-down arrow. It's going to be at each change in type. I'm going to sum it, yes. I want to know the total number of gallons, okay? And again, it's already got a check mark in gallons. It tries to find numerics for you, and I'm going to click OK. All right, so what I have is, now I have a grouping. I grouped low fat, and then I grouped traditional. And by using the subtotals, I know I had sold 63 gallons of one fat, and I sold 353 gallons of traditional. Okay? All right, everybody good with that? Again, this was we kind of went through this a little bit the last time, but if you weren't here, this is an easy way to get some grouping totals. The neat thing about subtotals is it gives you the ability to collapse. So if you don't want to see your detail, and notice that the row numbers jump, so you haven't lost anything, it just kind of hides it. So if you only want to see just the totals, it's very easy to do that. Okay? So again, it just depends on what you want to see. And I can even take it all the way down to where I only see the grand total. So the 1 gives you the grand total, 2 will give you the type totals, and then 3 puts all the data, gives you back to detail. Everybody good? Okay. All right, so we know that we sold 63 low fat, 353 of traditional. But to get that, we had to sacrifice the date order. So I'm going to go back up to subtotal. And again, once you're finished with subtotals, you can just remove them, not a problem. All right, so we're going to go back and put this back in order by date. Again, it's just so that you see where we're coming from. I'm going to sort it by date. Click OK. And now I have all my dates back in order. Okay. And then I'm going to take this over here. Okay. However, and again, this all I'm showing you is a way to get the same answers, just 2 different ways or 2 different presentations. What if you had your data, though, and it was very important to keep it in the order you wanted it in? Okay, it was very important to keep it by date. You still wanted those totals, okay, but you wanted to keep it so that when you looked at it or when you gave your report to someone, it was still in order by date. Now, we know right away, if all I wanted was a total, very easily, all I would have to do would be auto sum. Okay? If I wanted just the total, auto sum, and that's great. But if I do auto sum, it sums everything, right? Okay, well, that's not what we want right now. All right, one of the things that, again, I mentioned is there's a sum if. There's a count if, there's a sum if, there's an average if, okay? So, again, there's just about any function you can do, there's a sum if, or there's an if variation of it. So I'm going to, again, go to f of x, and